Back here on CBS Sports HQ, we know we talked about the trade deadline. That is one day out. So we're getting an idea of who the actual contenders are. And we're getting a look at the current AFC playoff picture. You have the division leaders right now, KC. They are the 1 seed with that bye, looking to stay perfect tonight against the Bucs. Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Houston. Then we have the wild card spots with Baltimore. The Chargers, shout out to Harbaugh there, getting them at 5-3. And then we're still talking about Denver being in that final wild card spot. But that is how the AFC playoff picture, there we go, is shaking out as of right now as we were about to go into week 10 of the NFL. Back here on HQ, we have Mike Renner joining the desk here alongside Kyle Long. I'm Jacqueline D'Agostino and Haley Sutton. We're gonna go through this situation. We're gonna skip over the Chiefs because they are just in that.
Because they're just that good.
I was gonna say I kind of want to give Mike Renner a little bit of a space here.
Give me some runway.
Kyle brought it to our attention that you believe the Kansas City Chiefs are one of the most fraudulent teams, maybe one of the fraudulent teams. So I just want to give you a moment. The floor is yours.
I'm sorry, Mike.
I think they're going to win tonight. I think they're the best team in the AFC. I just think that they're very beatable. Yeah. And I think when you just go down that roster of teams, whether it's the Bills, whether it's the Steelers, whether it's especially the Ravens, who are my pick for probably the second best team in the AFC, when they get that secondary back healthy, I think they're beatable, and I think they are, you know, a pass interference penalty, a foot going out of bounds away from having multiple losses.
Wrong color cleat.
So, yeah, I do think that Chiefs team's class the AFC, but the AFC playoff picture is still wide open, in my opinion.
Okay. Mike, every time.
That was well said, Mike.
Yeah, you did a great job.
That was great.
We always got to bring it back.
I'm proud of you.
We're looking at the playoff picture right now, and you said it, Mike. You think the Ravens are the second best team in the AFC, and it's a little crowded with the Bills, Steelers, Texans, and Ravens. To me, I kind of feel like the Bills are, maybe the Ravens too, a tier above the rest of those teams in that conversation. But why the Ravens over the Bills for you?
It's points. Every single week they can put points to the scoreboard. When they lose, it's because of their defense, and I do think that they do have issues on that side of the ball. I'm not glossing over those. But there's just no way to stop this Ravens offense. You can contain them. You can slow them down. But with the offensive line play much improved from week 1 when they lost to the Chiefs, they're darn near unstoppable when Derrick Henry's going. And now this trio of wide receivers that they have here, not just a duo anymore, a trio that can just get open at will. So your head's spinning trying to defend Lamar Jackson and company. I just think come playoff time, down the stretch here, give me the team that can put points to the scoreboard with how difficult points have been to come by in the NFL this season.
Yeah, and to Mike's point, this Baltimore offense, they can beat you in the way that they're designed to play, which is hand the football to Derrick Henry and have Lamar pop out of the mess and throw a quick dime. But they can also beat you in a number of different ways because of the steps that Lamar Jackson has taken as a quarterback. He is looking like the MVP for a reason, not just because of his record-setting legs, but because he's so good throwing the football. This Ravens team is so scary. They can beat you in a number of different ways.
And if he wasn't the MVP, I think we'd be giving it to Derrick Henry.
Yeah, which is crazy.
It was teammate. So it really is a loaded.
They made the right moves this offseason. They've got the right coach to keep these guys on the same page. And to your point, the only issue I see is some of the issues on the back end with their defensive secondary, but they're going to be getting healthier.
So, Kyle, who do you think is the number 2 team? Are you in agreement?
I'm in agreement with the Ravens because the Bills, you know, we've heard Milano's going to be getting healthy and coming back. I think that's going to be a huge pickup for the Bills if that does come to fruition. But right now, the most ready team is the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay. All right. Something to keep our eye on. Something else that's kind of been a little surprising. I know we've had a couple of analysts at CBS say that next year for the Chargers would be the year that we'd see the Jim Harbaugh effect really go into play. But as we're seeing already, Mike, the Jim Harbaugh effect is kind of in full. It's not been perfect, so I don't want to like overhype the Chargers, right? But they're doing some really good things. Their defense looks good. Justin Herbert is kind of figuring it out. What do you think about them in the postseason?
Yeah, Harbaugh's the king of the one-season turnaround. He's done it every single place he's gone. The cultural change from last year to this year, from the Brandon Staley era to now Jim Harbaugh, cannot be understated because you have like relative role players, guys who at other stops, whether it's guys like Poona Ford at defensive tackle, Elijah Molden at safety, who are, you know, solid starters that they're playing out of their minds here for this Chargers defense, and that's just the culture and that's the coaching that we've seen on that side of the football. So cannot be understated how big this defensive turnaround has been. And then you have Justin Herbert, right? A good path to success is an elite quarterback with an elite defense. That's how you win games in the NFL, and we're seeing that now with the Los Angeles Chargers.
And they invested in that offensive line over the last couple of years with their tackle guys who are really good players with Slater and Alt. But also, yeah, Herbert, sometimes we all fall victim of forgetting that the guy Justin Herbert has so much damn talent, and then we go and see him throw the football, and we're in awe every single time. To your point about Jim Harbaugh, it's the true belief that you have when there's a guy who's been there and done it at the highest level, who's really a hardo. I mean, he really is. The guy loves football. Yeah. He's a hardo. He's a goofball. You believe that he's wearing his heart on his sleeve, and he is, and you believe in the empowerment that he puts into that football team. You see it with teams like Detroit. You see it with Andy Reid in Kansas City. Now we're seeing it in Los Angeles with the Chargers.
Let's talk about some teams that, as of right now, are on the outside looking in, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals. But it's almost like you blink twice and tilt your head, and it might be the same Joe Burrow and Bengals team that we saw in 21-22. 5 passing touchdowns for this guy in that matchup against Vegas. A much-needed win there as they go on to face the Ravens. Kyle, is this team poised to then go and make a playoff push? Because we know starting slow is kind of their thing. It's just something that they do.
I'm going to say probably not. I would say this guy definitely is. Joe Burrow is the guy. There's no question in my mind about that. Joe Burrow is the guy in Cincinnati. But when you got issues like they had at the walkthrough on Saturday, when you've got issues defensively like they have in Cincinnati for quite some time, the slow start there, it tells me this entire team wasn't ready to make a run. Even though the opportunity's there with Joe Burrow in those skill positions, I still have doubts about this team moving forward.
As crazy as it sounds, though, if Evan McPherson had made a 53-yarder in overtime against the Baltimore Ravens, they would be ahead of the Ravens right now in the AFC North. They would be 5-4. The Ravens would be 5-4, and we'd be talking about them as that dark horse Super Bowl contender because of this offense. Again, when so many teams are struggling offensively, and you could put points on the scoreboard the way the Cincinnati Bengals can, and Joe Burrow, with a lot of quarterbacks struggling around the NFL, he's shown up every single week since that Week 1 dud against the Patriots. I do think this Bengals team can get back in it. It's going to be a grind, but they're going to have
to be great on the offensive side of the ball, Mike.
Yeah. The margin's very small there. I feel like the belief every single week up until this point has kind of been like shrinking and shrinking and shrinking for
especially in the AFC North, because we know those games get a little crazy. The margin for error is very, very slim.
Yeah. Okay. So we've been talking about, the successful teams in the conference. Let's talk about maybe some teams that haven't seen a lot of success, because I think when we came into the season and just talking about the AFC as a whole, the AFC is typically the more competitive conference of the two. But as we're taking a look here at the picture right now, 6 2-win teams at this point of the season. Kyle, what does that number tell you about what the AFC looks like this season?
It tells me that there's some concerns in the coaching department, I would say. As I look down this list, I see a lot of question marks in terms of leadership. Obviously, some new guys in new head coaching positions on that list, but I can attest to how much of an impact leadership can have or lack thereof, and those teams are in need of some right now.
I think you're definitely just seeing the echelons of quarterback play when it's the AFC. You just go down that list. How many of those teams have a quote-unquote franchise quarterback? The Jaguars?
The Jags. Don't forget.
That's it. But Trevor Lawrence has been surrounded by not a lot of talent outside of rookie Brian Thomas Jr. So that, to me, is it. It's that so many teams in the AFC want a quarterback. So when I look at that list of 2-win teams, you want to be staying on that list as long as possible. You want to be getting high in this upcoming draft class to get one of those guys at the top.
A lot of those teams have 2 quarterbacks.
If someone like the Titans winning some games, that might actually hurt you now in the long term.
Is there a 2-win team on that list that you think could maybe make a push? Or is there a team that you're looking at to be maybe a sleeper?
Yeah. I'm like, pull that list up. Hey, pull that list up again. Let me just do this. Pull that list up again real quick. No, there is not.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't even show the list. All right. Well, there you go. Just figured we'd ask.
There we go. A little delayed list.
Yeah, probably not. No, probably not.
Still no? What about Colts, Bengals, Jets? I know we already talked about the Bengals, Mike, but Kyle, any confidence?
You know what? Last night looked to be really rough for the Colts offensively. I give credit to their defense. They competed the whole night, but it's just not enough on that offensive side of the football.
I think Jets. Jets are they still very much could, especially when you look at that last wild card, the Broncos 5-4. They could lose some games here. It could be around 500. I can see the Jets making their way back into that.
Uh-oh.
All right, Mike, Kyle, just food for thought for your podcast episode. You guys do it every day. Pushing the pile. You can download, listen, follow wherever you get your pods, or you can watch right now by scanning that QR code on your screen.